Stepping into the Arctic Circle drops you immediately into a zero-visibility expanse of horizontal snow and sub-zero wind. When Jimmy Donaldson and his crew landed in this environment, they had no tents, no provisions, and only the clothes on their backs. Surviving a week in these conditions requires discarding any reliance on sheer willpower or pain tolerance. The human body is entirely outmatched here. Survival becomes a strict mathematical war against the laws of thermodynamics. This animated diagram illustrates the environment's first physical attack: convection. A human body naturally produces a thin, protective boundary layer of heat. High-velocity wind shear instantly strips that layer away, exposing raw tissue to freezing air. Decades of historical military survival protocols dictate that without that boundary layer, exposed limbs will freeze solid within 10 minutes. Unless the crew engineers an immediate physical power measure, their core temperatures will fatally drop before the sun even dips below the horizon. The crew's first defensive maneuver is entirely physical, digging out a snow cave to physically block the convective wind shear. This cross-section demonstrates the precise aerodynamics of the shelter. The dome shape forces external wind to glide over the roof, leaving the interior air stagnant and allowing the body's boundary layer to regenerate. But insulating against the wind introduces the Arctic's immediate counterpunch: conduction. The interior ice floor acts as a massive heat sink. Looking at this diagram, the physics of conduction become clear. Thermal energy rapidly drains out of the human body the moment it makes direct physical contact with the freezing ground. To block this, the crew harvests fresh pine branches, weaving them into an insulated mattress that physically severs the conductive heat transfer to the floor. In the Arctic, a shelter is a meticulously engineered microclimate required to pause the relentless physics of heat loss. Despite the shelter, the cold inevitably penetrates their defenses. Chandler's physical state rapidly deteriorates as the temperature drops. His body triggers an autonomous biological defense mechanism: peripheral vasoconstriction. Blood vessels violently restrict flow to the extremities, sacrificing the limbs to keep warm blood circulating around the vital organs. The medical signs are immediately visible. His toes turn ghost white, indicating acute ischemia and a total loss of capillary refill. The instinctive reaction here is often to vigorously rub the skin or hold the foot to an open fire. Both methods physically destroy the fragile, frozen cell walls, accelerating tissue death. Instead, the crew executes a precise emergency intervention: axillary skin-to-skin rewarming. They place Chandler's freezing feet directly into the cameraman's bare armpits. This thermal gradient shows exactly why the technique works. Safe, non-destructive heat transfers continuously from a high-temperature core zone into the freezing tissue, safely restoring blood flow. When the human body begins sacrificing its own limbs, the only reliable defense is to borrow core heat from another human being. Protecting the exterior is only half the battle. The body's internal furnace must be continuously fueled through massive metabolic exertion. This flowchart maps the biological penalty. Exertion and a caloric deficit trigger a cascading failure loop: hunger, shivering, loss of dexterity, cognitive decline. Physiologically, eating is heating. With tiny input eclipsed by massive metabolic output, they face a systemic crash. To break the cycle, they attempt to ice fish, manually driving an auger through 2.5 feet of solid lake ice, burning thousands of precious calories for zero payoff. Exhausted, they pivot their strategy. They launch a camera drone to scout the landscape, utilizing technology to locate faster-moving, thinner river ice miles away. The calculation works. They break through 20 centimeters of river ice and pull a fish up barehanded, securing their first influx of metabolic fuel. Caloric input functions as the strict currency of survival. Without it, the body loses the physical capacity to execute every other external survival strategy. Even with food and shelter secured, the crew must simultaneously manage the final layers of Arctic threats, securing an external heat source and defending against apex predators. Sparking a fire in a wet, freezing tundra is a strict thermodynamic puzzle. They solve it by chopping deep into dead spruce to find dry core wood, and utilizing hyperflammable bird feathers to bypass the moisture threshold of the environment. Then there is the external threat of polar bears. International polar guides mandate strict spatial geometry for campsites, requiring armed, engineered defensive perimeters around the sleeping mats. This is achieved mechanically. A breached line immediately releases a sear, triggering a spring-loaded blank cartridge to awake the campers and potentially deter the animal. Authorities also mandate a secondary layer of active defense, requiring high-decibel mechanical deterrents like caliber 4 flare guns to be kept loaded and within reach. These physical tools and alarm hunting the crew. The 7-day survival loop comes to a sudden cinematic end when a pack of rescue dogs arrives to pull the crew out of the tundra. The final biological scorecard is clear. The crew survived a full week with 0 lost toes, no severe frostbite, and no systemic metabolic collapse. The Arctic does not care about a human's pain tolerance, bravery, or sheer willpower. You never truly defeat the extreme cold. You only survive it through an uncompromising, relentless adherence to the physics of heat transfer and metabolic economics.